Maura is going to introduce our speaker. And before she does, I just want to say I'm so happy to have Hale here. I've known Hale for years. So thank you for coming to our club. I'm really excited to have you with us. And Maura.
Okay. And I'm equally as excited that Hale agreed to do this. I have the ultimate respect for her. We're in the same industry and she does just an amazing job. So I'm going to read what I have in front of me. Hale Richardson is Vice President for HomeFed Corporation. She leads master marketing, governance, and community engagement for the company's master planned communities. Integral to these efforts are anchor strategy and business development, visioning and brand creation, positioning, and amenity design. She is passionate about quality of life improvements and currently serves on the board of the San Diego Regional EDC, Southwestern College Foundation Board, South Bay Family YMCA Advisory Board, and she volunteers with South Bay Community Services. She holds a Bachelor in Economics and an MBA Real Estate and Finance, both from the University of San Diego. She's a longstanding ULI member, a licensed real estate broker, and has been with HomeFed for 24 years. Among her top achievements, surviving distance learning with her boys, ages 15, 11, and 45. Hale, you're up. Welcome.
Thank you so much, you guys. I appreciate it. I appreciate the invitation. I love to talk about what we do. As many of you who are on the phone know me, I've been able to see a bunch of faces and many that I recognize, and those that do know me know that I love to talk about what we do, but I don't love being on camera. So this whole Zoom indoctrination over the past 4 or 5 months has been like one perpetual kind of exposure therapy session for me. And my husband's a psychologist. He says I'm not getting any better at it. So hopefully any of my lack of, sort of broadcast skills is overshadowed by the fact that I do have a passion for what we do, and that you guys walk away feeling like you got something out of this. That's just my goal. It's just that we walk away feeling like it was a good use of time. And so I can't thank you enough for inviting me into the group. I had the luxury of getting to meet a couple of you during that breakout session. I enjoyed that more than anything I've had to do this morning so far, so thank you. And I want to be respectful of everybody's time, so I guess we should just sort of kick right into it. I do have slides that will hopefully take the focus off of me and put them on some much more interesting and engaging pictures. So should we just go ahead and kick right into things?
Yes, and you should be able to share your screen, Hale.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to do that right now. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I wanted to start, and I did look as best as I could about the membership, because this is my first chance to participate with the Rotary, and I realized that there's probably a likelihood that many of you don't know the HomeFed brand. So we have been in Chula Vista, been involved for many years, a couple of decades down there, but most of it has been ancillary because we haven't been on the ground. So I think I'm just going to take 1 or 2 minutes in respect for your time to just kind of let you know who HomeFed is, because we market our master plan communities and not our company. So there's some of you that may not be as familiar. And then we'll pick up from there and bring you up to speed on what we've been doing on the ground in Chula Vista for the past 4 years, and then a projection of what we have going forward. And depending on how much coffee I've had, I can kind of give you that in 5 minutes or in the full 20 minutes. So I'm going to try to aim for the middle, so it gives us some chance for some back and forth as we keep going, okay? So HomeFed Community is a master plan community developer. And we've got quite a sizable presence. Just here in San Diego's region, we've got about 16,000 residential units. So we're going to be doing this for a while. We've been doing this for a while. I personally have been with the company, Maura mentioned, about 24 years. So it's been a good run, and I don't have any plans of leaving. I'd love very much to finish my career developing here in San Diego and in some of the other locations we're in. We have an amazing group of people that I work with, and collectively between the group of us, land acquisition, entitlement, all the things that you see on the screen, master planning, development, all of these are skill sets that we have internal to the office, but we rely on wonderful consultants outside the office as well, and development partners to help us with our master planning. We're effectively the development arm for a company called Jeffries, and Jeffries is Hopefully you guys can still hear me. Jefferies is a diversified financial services company, and we're the development brand for that. And we have presence on both coasts. A lot of people don't realize while we're headquartered here in San Diego County and do a lot, our biggest presence actually is in South County and Chula Vista. We also have locations, master plans, and amenities assets along the East Coast as well. And so I'm gonna just show you a couple of those images so you get a sense for scale. We have large master plans, 3,000 units plus in Florida, and one that means a lot to me in here in North County, Santa Ana Hills, which I spent about 20 years working on. We have smaller ones like the one in Asheville Park, and these are, again, master plan communities, most which have a walkable town center, Escaya, which I'll definitely focus and give you an update on today here during our presentation. And then this slide is funny. I would have typically called these our income producing properties, but in COVID times, there's nothing income producing about a hotel tower or an office tower in New York, and definitely not much of anything income producing with a lifestyle shopping center. Thank God it's an outside lifestyle shopping center, but our income producing amenities and assets are non-income producing assets at the moment. And hopefully that changes as COVID starts to shift. And then we have a couple in various stages of development and planning. So unentitled yet, and we're working toward those. Bonita Ranch is one that you probably are a little bit familiar with if you've lived in San Diego for any length of time. It's brought down 2 prior developers, so I'm really keeping my fingers crossed that we can somehow make it through. We have a big couple of months ahead of us right now, and it's a large master plan in Santee, beautiful, beautiful location. And then we have several thousand acres in the Central Coast in California that is outstanding and overlooks the ocean. So just to kind of give you a sense for what HomeFed does. And we've been doing it a while. So this slide is sort of just a kind of recognition, a pat on the back saying, hey, you guys are doing a good job. We've received some accolades for the work that we've done, and it's because we sincerely put every bit of our heart and soul into this. I work with a small group of people. We're not a huge staff, but we live, breathe, and drink this stuff. And it means a great deal to us. And I would encourage you to, you know, take a look at some of the communities that we've built because they're really lovely places to be. I care for them a lot. So today's focus, of course, is specific to the footprint we have in the Otay Ranch. And the Otay Ranch is, you know, has a massive and long history of success. I've got to say, you know, HomeFed has a sizable footprint. I'm showing you on this exhibit that there are quite a number. There's 4 locations here that are master plan communities that we have not brought to market yet, and the village of Escaya, which we'll talk about today, that we're almost at the very, you know, last tail end of, just a few units left there. But what I really do want to point out is that, you know, the opportunity we have to do development in this region is not because we were the ones to see this in the very beginning. This was a lot of heavy lifting that was done by the Baldwin Company and the city of Chula Vista decades ago. And I'm so grateful for the heavy lifting that they did because it's paved the path for us to participate and have an opportunity at success in delivering some of the remaining villages within the Otay Ranch. But we are in very good company down there. We work with wonderful development partners that surround us, and each of the villages has a very unique character. And we just hope we can contribute well to it. But it's a continuation of success that was established long before we had our foot on the ground there. So the first community that I'll talk about a little, and if you've been off Heritage Road, even if you're not anywhere in the home shopping market, but you just kind of want to know your community, if you've been off Heritage over the last year or so, you've seen, at least in a drive-by capacity, the village of Escaya. And so it's our first master plan, the first of 5 that we did down there. And selecting some of these images to kind of give you a sense of what's down there was hard because I had so many more I wanted to share. But I think that it's a beautiful kind of, sort of fresh breath kind of community that kind of causes you to stop and inhale. I'm clearly biased because I had a lot to do with, with the community and the amenity development down there. The style for the architecture is something that I very, very much bought into and committed to in a heavy way. So I'm really proud of it myself, but I would love to get your feedback. So if you drive by and you like it, tell me. And if you drive by and you don't like it, tell me. And I promise to be polite in either case. It was very much done with the focus of lifestyle and community connectedness. There was, this was the first of our master plans that we built a full-scale wellness center in, very much with the intention of bringing residents together, causing them to engage. Even now in COVID conditions, we're finding really, really wonderful ways to be able to encourage kind of, distanced opportunities for people to still have relationships with one another. And the community is, for the most part, fully built out. We only have a handful of homes left there. We had great guest builders that participated. These were partners of ours within the Village of Vizcaya. It was Brookfield, Shea, and at the beginning, Cal Atlantic, but during the lifeline of Vizcaya, Cal Atlantic became Lennar. So Brookfield, Cal Atlantic, and Lennar were the builders that are finishing out there, and they're lovely homes and a full range of single family, multifamily, apartments, condos, townhomes, row home style, the whole gamut. And this, just for fun, gives you kind of a sense for the scale of the footprint, the footprint that we leave behind. So this was a before picture and an unveil of, the after, to show you the scale of work and economic activity and job development that happens in these master plan communities. And one other at this look from this angle that I think is really interesting, because it gives you the sense for the town center and the shops that are along the bottom that are designed integrated with the mixed use retail at this location. And this is the school site that will be developed. We're really, really excited by the fact that the school district still, and I keep holding out, waiting for some kind of terrible budget consideration from the school district to call and tell me that they have to put the kibosh on it. But right now, as of even this week, our confirmation is that they're moving forward with the hope of having the first kids on the ground here in the next year, so for fall of next year. And this picture I had to share only because one of our residents took it and I thought it was so lovely, and we care a great deal about them. So they shared this picture and sent us a note about how much they love being in the area. So I'm sharing that one. And to give you a sense of perspective, because sometimes we kind of get sort of focused on what's happening around us, not sort of recognizing how it fits into the larger competitive environment. Something to be kind of impressed by, candidly, if you're in our industry, is that the Otay Ranch, together ourselves with Baldwin and Stratford Land, so over at Montecito and including Millennia, within the Otay Ranch, in 2018, Otay Ranch was the top 10 selling master plan in the country, and it's inched its way up. It's number 8 this past year. I will say the only reason we may not make the list next year collectively as a group of developers out there is because we're running out of inventory. We don't have anything left to sell. And so not because of lack of demand, but because we literally don't have anything left to offer, because it went so quickly, would we not make that list. But it's a kudos, and I'm proud of being able to make that list. And Vizcaya just by itself made the top 50, which is saying a lot for demand in South County in general, specifically. So, to tell you a little bit about what that transition means, we went from the first master plan into the second master plan, and Cotavera is the next of the master plan communities. So I mentioned there were 5. We just reviewed the Village of Vizcaya. We bought that property in 2015. We broke ground in 16. We started sales in 17, and we're effectively sold out there. So that was about a 3-year, marketing and on the ground project where you could drive by and take a peek at it. And now we're starting on the next one, which is Cotavera, and it's in the central region of the collective villages. It's still on the west side of the 125 to give you some perspective of where that is. And this is La Media Road that comes down. And if you go down there to take a peek, you'll get a sense of what's happening on the ground. This picture was taken a couple of months ago, so it's cleaned up. We made them kind of straighten up so that, because they knew they'd be getting a picture. But if you go down there, you'll see that there's even more activity now. And for perspective, again, this is where La Media comes.
Media Road.
This is where you kind of crossed over to what will eventually, you know, connect in over here and over here over at Main Street. The high school is over just off the screen on this side here. And this is a much more intense and larger master plan, candidly, than Ascaya. So you'll see Ascaya was about 1,000 homes. This is a little more than twice that. It's a mix of both single family and multifamily. There's a walkable town center. It's adjacent to a large community park. The roads will connect through to over where the University and Innovation District is, over past the 125. And La Media will connect over and connect to Otay Valley Road. So just to give you a sense for perspective there. And it will have another school within this master plan as well. And we have assembled a really amazing team. None of this happens, again, I can't extend enough gratitude to all of our development partners. So HomeFed does lead the master planning effort, but we get to rely on wonderful guest participants, consultants, engineers, designers, builder partners. And I share this because I really want to draw attention to how much kind of commitment and expertise is involved when we're thinking about the planning for these communities that we know will have a very lasting impact on the region. And we get together as a group and we do a lot of idea exchange, a lot of charrette conversations, a lot of brainstorming about what will happen, and we identify ahead of time what the strengths and the weaknesses are of any particular location. We focus on what we can do to add to the broader communities, not just within the boundaries of the master plan, but also how do we make ourselves an amenity within the larger community of Chula Vista and South County so that the residents that are already in the area feel like it's an expanded amenity for them, and it's welcoming to anybody, whether they're in the market or not, to serve as a venue for use. And these images here, I'm going to fly through them quickly because I want to be respectful of time, but I thought they would be helpful in sharing with you kind of what the intention is when we go through these brainstorming efforts, to really emphasize kind of that there's a unique character to each of these villages. In terms of the village of Cordovera, it's very much inspired by European small towns. And I have taken 2 trips now on my own, my vacations, which the kids always say are not their vacations because I'm constantly talking about land development and work, but to recognize what are these elements, contemporary elements, by the way, not traditional in this particular village, contemporary elements of European inspiration in terms of streetscapes and landscapes, ways for us to weave in small elements of water and play into public and private, public and play spaces and art spaces. And always was there, but even more exaggerated now is a real deliberate effort to try to create outdoor opportunities and venues that can host activities for the community. Again, not just within the homeowners association range, but broader to the public, add as an asset to the community of South County and the community of Chula Vista, and really focusing on venue creation. So not to just host events and activities that we create, but to open our doors and encourage other organizations to come and use our spaces and know that they're extended invitations for them. And then, and my friends from this morning's conversation, Diane and Dwayne and Mary, are gonna chuckle a little bit, but I can't overlook, the 4-legged friend, especially now because I have my own dog. We've always really recognized the role of, pets in our families. In some cases, they're, loved more than our chosen family members. And I'm sort of kidding, but I got to tell you, there are days where it's a close battle for me. And making sure that these spaces are engaging and invite people to collaborate, to create connections and include the family pet. this one was something that we shared with our designers to remind them that we need to drop in, speckle in whimsical elements within the play environment that are unique to each village and not the standards that we find over and over. There are ways to kind of stretch ourselves in one direction or another. There are inspirational images, of course. We certainly couldn't, put all of them in, but anytime there's an opportunity to create a little bit of extra, history and interest, we want to be able to do that. And considerations of what happens in these spaces between the daytime and the nighttime, and how the light reflects, and using natural light and also deliberate efforts of lighting to kind of change the appeal within spaces is important to us. And finding ways to use art and more inspiring elements to serve public needs. So yes, is there a need for seating? Yes, there is. But does it have to be your standard bench? It doesn't. And just speckling these things in is the goal. Recognizing that even the ground that we walk on is a canvas for us, and finding ways to stretch ourselves and see if we can get beyond the standard approval process to try to get little elements in there that are inspirational and bring a little bit of additional joy. And for me, in particular, pavement is a massive obsession. So any opportunity we can to find unique ways to create a little bit of extra interest within the pavements that we have in small spaces. It could just be, around a couple of the trees, or in a little corner of a park, or in a plaza. We really emphasize the kind of deliberate attention to a plaza that makes it interesting to be in, and creates a path that can expand on a park and bring it into a public space. So these are design considerations. A couple of images here that talk about the importance of anchoring retail architecture to be able to emphasize deliberate and important corners that draw attention to plazas. And then a couple images just to give you a sense for the muse kind of styles that we're thinking about and have imposed on our guest builders in terms of architecture. Again, this village is very much reflective of some of the contemporary styles that we're seeing in Europe right now. Really simple forms, harder angles, larger windows, expansive indoor and outdoor spaces are the elements that we're asking them to draw into their architecture to set it aside aesthetically from other communities that we've built or other communities in the region. And so that tells you a little bit about what's going to happen over the course of the next number of years. I'll tell you the village of Cordero, which is Village 8 West, is being graded right now. If you drove down to the corner there at La Media, you'd see the images that I showed you. We should deliver those units to our guest builders early next year, so that community will grand open before the end of the second half of next year. But I can't emphasize enough that there is a lot more to come. So I haven't even begun to kind of touch on Village 8 East, Village 9, and Village 10. And so, going forward, we expect that we are going to be here for the next, say 25 years doing this development work, just to give you a sense for the scale that's happening down there. It's impactful, and impactful in the same ways that the other villages have been. I mean, I'm not trying to overshadow any of that, but to say to you that, we're going to be there a while, and we really want to be an important part of the community in those locations. I don't know how much to get into this, so I'm just going to be a little bit, just the beginnings of the conversation, because we have so little time, and I'm going to check the clock just to make sure I'm on the right track. Zanita, how many minutes do I have left, or have I already overrun?
You have about 5 minutes left.
Okay, I could have stopped here, but I'm going to take the next at least 2 or 3 minutes to tell you one of the projects I'm most excited about, which is our work with the City of Chula Vista in considering an overlay zone for the University and Innovation District. And I want to tell you right up front, do not be discouraged by what's happening right now in terms of COVID conditions. Certainly there are massive changes in the way that education is going to be delivered. I think that all of us that are within the development industry, but most specifically in the education industry, kind of recognize that candidly it's better that this push is coming quickly so that we can accelerate these changes that have been on the horizon and have been necessary for a great many years to find ways to deliver education expansion in a meaningful way, but, you know, without continuing to make it more and more challenging for so many students. So I don't want anyone to be discouraged to think that, you know, college will never, you know, be a reality going forward for other kids. Stop listening to the news. There will always be a need to educate people. There will always be creative people that are finding ways to deliver it in meaningful ways. And I think that it's you know, an expansive horizon as it relates to the, you know, the opportunities for educational expansion in South County. So that's my particular position, and I'll tell you more about it in the future. I hope you'll have to decide whether you're going to invite me back for that. Oh, I'm getting nervous that this slide didn't pop right up. But here we go. Okay, so to give you a sense for this, Village 9 and 10, I showed you on the map, are on these two locations that I'm running over with my mouse. And the city's university property is immediately next to us. So we have 3 different parcels that are immediately adjacent to one another, and each of them has their own entitlements, existing entitlements. So I'm not talking about anything new. What we are conceptualizing is an overlay zone, kind of a blanket effectively, that goes over all 3 of those, that would enable any of these parties to be able to transfer entitlements and uses between any of the villages, so that we can position ourselves now during the downturn to be most responsive to all interest for educational anchors, university anchors, innovation anchors, as the economy starts to shift and come forward. So again, this is not a new idea. We've been talking about it for a while, but it's really moving forward now. We look at this opportunity between the 3 parties and realize that when you have these big parcels immediately next to each other, what we can do to enhance ourselves, to position ourselves to be most attractive and to compete the very best in a broader market, is to enable flexibility of use, so that as we can reach out to educational anchors and innovation anchors, we can position ourselves to be most responsive to their needs, whatever they are going forward. And that enables us to move forward in any myriad of directions. So these are 5 different master plans, and really the overlay zone enables any of them. So it does not require any of them. Everything could move forward in the exact same way that it's been planned right now, and each party could separately dedicate their, you know, to their own commitment, depending on when an anchor comes in. But by moving forward with an overlay zone, it enables us the flexibility to work together to do a much more integrated plan that's more responsive to market conditions. And it allows HomeFed to use the resources we have that we are going to go forward with for our master planning, and help by bringing parcels of university anchor needs into our development as they come to fruition. So we're very, very excited about that. And if that happens, just for perspective on what's possible, what you might see is, you might see a first phase that would be hosted on HomeFed's property. We would do, you know, the majority of it might be market rate, but there could be a university user that comes right in the center, because the university could allocate some of the entitlements they have over to this location, and then swap it out for other acreage on their location. And for perspective, where that sits would be just south of Millennia. So I'm showing this to you upside down, and this always tricks everybody, but this is the community of Millennia. This is the 125 right along here. And just south of that here would be where we plan on having our first phase of development. And it's a location that we could, if the city chooses at their election, could host university uses in better and closer proximity to the 125 and to the BRT corridor, and to all of the wonderful amenities that Millennia has already been building out for the last number of years. Okay, Zanita, I think I've used up my time.
Thank you,
I'll
Holly.
stop. Yeah, of course. I'll stop and take a breath.
Yes, take a breath. That's good. I'm, you know me. I love this stuff. So I love seeing it. So interesting, and it's literally right in my backyard. Questions, Jan?
So what was not mentioned, and I'm curious about, is police, fire, and hospital services. We've grown to the point of, and with that larger community, we're really running out of hospital space here in the South Bay. Police and fire, what's the plan for that?
Yeah, so the city has something called the Growth Management Oversight Commission that that watches over kind of the future needs for the amenities that you're talking about in concert with the expectations for growth from other developers. And we as developers have requirements to feed into allocations, savings, programs, buckets of dollars that are used so that those amenities can come online in sequence with our development. So I agree with you. I mean, certainly, and it's certainly something within our next master plan, of course, there's a space that's allocated for the fire department. So each of the communities has an allocation that is at the city's election, at the school district's election, when to be able to take advantage of each of those parcels to the extent that they feel like they need them, and they can adjust them. They can push them back into another phase. They can bring them forward, but they're considered very much in the same phasing as what we develop. And there are thresholds in place that, you know, throttle development so that we can't proceed before the allocable dollars are given to the city for the purposes of the amenities that you're talking about.
Thank you.
Yes, of course.
Any other questions for Hale?
I have a question if the company is publicly or privately owned.
Yeah, for all of the 24 years that I've been with the company, it's been a public company. Just last year, our biggest shareholder took us private. So now we are a privately held entity within a public entity. So Jeffries is a public entity, and we are effectively one branch, one development arm for Jeffries. But Jeffries is a publicly held entity, JEF on the NYSD.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
Others, any other questions?
Hale, thank you. It was so great, and you have a wonderful development. So
thank you very much. Thanks. I appreciate it. Thank you for letting me join the conversation.
Okay, so we are not that over at all, just 1 minute, but it is time to adjourn our meeting. And so with the talk of community, I found this quote and I thought it was really good. It's who Rotary is. And I know that our developers who are in our community are really part of our community. And so community is about doing something together that makes belonging matter. And with that, I will adjourn our meeting.
Bye-bye.